To this day, Demon's Souls remains one of the less popular games by From Software. A big reason for that is that there was never a multi-platform release for this game, which is a big shame in my opinion. It still absolutely laid the groundwork for the now greatly renowned Soulsborne series, mostly popularized by Elden Ring. The key features and core gameplay mechanics are still used in every From Software game to this very day. And with that, the most infamous feature, which also plagues or is part of every game, depending on how you see it, was introduced. The Poison Swamp. In this video I will talk about the Poison Swamp in Demon's Souls and the 5th Archstone in general, and talk about why I think it's overrated and quite great. However, I will also talk about the flaws and the issues I have with this area, and I hope you maybe agree, or at least understand my perspective. With all that said, have fun with the video. Demon's Souls is a rather unique approach to its world design. Instead of an interconnected world, it has a main hub, and you basically select missions or levels which each house a boss, and after you defeat this boss, his checkpoint becomes the starting point of the next level. I will be running down all 3 stages of the 5th Archstone and talk about what works and what doesn't, starting with 5-1, the Depraved Chasm. The Depraved Chasm is a very crowded area. It's full of depraved ones around every corner, has countless ambushes, and is just overall very restrictive of your movement, with cliffs where you can fall to your death, or just really tiny rooms or bridges you have to work around. Every Demon's Souls area, or most of them, teach you something, and this level teaches you about fighting in a restricted zone. I think this is genuinely a great level. It's designed very well, it has amazing atmosphere, and the enemy encounters are super interesting and varied. It has bugs that poison you, which nowadays I just roll past them or roll them aside, but I didn't know about that on my first run and it got poisoned every time. Another thing, poison status effect being a danger, which will be more relevant in the next area, but it starts being a danger in this area too. And also this pack of plague rats, which are just the worst. At the end of the level, we encounter the Leechmonger, which is just a pretty bad boss in my opinion. It has like 5 attacks and can heal itself, it's boring and it's just not well designed. But I think it fits the Archstone's area and themes very well, so I'm kinda glad it exists. So in conclusion, 5-1, the Depraved Chasm, is a pretty great and awesome area, designed with some amazing encounters, and one of my favorite areas in Demon's Souls, to be honest. I think it's great and I think people should give it more of a chance, and I'm glad it receives more praise as time goes on. Well, here we are, at probably one of the most controversial areas in the series. And now I'm here to tell you this area is great? Nah, I wouldn't go that far. But I think it's a pretty solid or decent area and not as bad as most people think. Once again, this area has an amazing atmosphere as the level before, maybe even more so. It's absolutely bleak and depressing, and there is this poison, rotting garbage everywhere. Basically, this area is the dumping place of the world of Demon's Souls, which is just perfectly communicated through the environmental storytelling. Personally, I don't think the gameplay is as bad as most people say. I really enjoy that you have to utilize your ranged abilities like bows or spells, or use soul remains, which I often do nowadays for the very crowded and dangerous places in this level. The village part, basically the last segment of this level, is also really cool and pretty enjoyable, and once again captures that essence of dreadful, claustrophobic small room you have to fight hordes of enemies. It's also just really gross house, which just fits perfectly, as I said, with the themes of the area. The big saving grace for me for this area, why I think it's decent and not bad, is that there is a shortcut. If this area didn't have a shortcut, like 4-2, I would definitely not like this area. However, I think it's pretty decent because of the shortcut. And thanks Miyazaki for being this merciful. Even with all the praise I've given, I think it's very fair to dislike this level. The gameplay can feel sluggish, which I enjoyed on my first run and still do, but I absolutely get that this is not everyone's cup of tea, and you can luckily skip it pretty easily, which you can see here on the screen. So it's not too bad on replays in my opinion. Also, the worst aspect about this area easily for me is the big depraved ones. When they knock you down in the swamp, you're just dead. They knock you down with every hit. You can't roll. Besides, if you had that one obscure ring, but like most people are not gonna have it, which is just pretty baffling. Maybe that's the brutal punishing challenge of the OG Demon Souls days. Anyway, I digress. Now, talking about the boss, the Dirty Colossus is definitely the embodiment of a mediocre boss. It's not offensive, but it's also not really super insanely interesting either, but I think it looks very cool once again, same as Leechmonger, and I think it fits the area's aesthetics perfectly. Yeah, with all this said, I think the Swamp of Sorrows is not as bad as most people say, but I think it's very fair to dislike this area, and genuinely, I can't defend everything this area has to offer. I still hope you maybe rethink this and maybe try replaying it with an open mind again, if you ever choose to replay Demon Souls. This is like the only part the majority of people agree upon is pretty amazing. And yeah, I mean, what can I say? The Maiden Estrella boss fight is just pure perfection for Demon Souls. The fight is just an NPC, Garl Windland, you parry him. It's pretty fun, but it's nothing special, it just exists, so the fight is not really the interesting part here. It's just the story and the moment what is happening here. It's not the best boss fight, but it's just a great moment. It's amazing. This is the moment in the game where you fight probably your last archdemon and you start questioning your choices and your journey overall. Maiden Estrella is here, helping the depraved ones, taking their souls and easing their suffering, and you just kill her. So, are you the demon? Is she the demon? It's a really interesting question, and I genuinely think this is probably the best story moment in Demon Souls. Estrella was built up by this naughty woman or some other NPCs through the entire game, and now you meet this, the supposed archdemon, and she's just this pure saint who's taking their souls. A lot of what's great about Estrella has already been said a million times. She's amazing and definitely my favorite part of the Archstone. She's like the perfect contrast to this nasty, disgusting place. You find her with her white robes soaked in this blood. It's just perfect. It's amazing. First, I want to talk about the great atmosphere in this Archstone. I think the atmosphere here is superb and probably my second favorite in the entire game. Number one, of course, being the Tower of Latria. The oppressive nature of this place can just be felt around every corner throughout this entire land, and it's just amazing. To demonstrate this, I will show you some clips with in-game audio. It's absolutely amazing. Another amazing aspect about this area is what I mentioned before. This is basically the dumping place of the land of Boletaria. people throw and discard everything they don't need here anymore, and the villagers suffer because of this. It's really messed up and it fits perfectly into the world of Demon Souls. My favorite aspect about this area, however, are Miyazaki's explanations what this area represents. The Tower of Latria, the third Archstone, represents evil made by humans, and this Archstone represents evil made by nature. So basically, in the third Archstone, the old monk conducted experiments to gain further power and influence in the land of Latria, while this area is just doomed by nature, which is just communicated perfectly through the hostile environment. Furthermore, this area introduces the first poison swamp, status effects being a big challenge the first time in the series, and is probably the most challenging Archstone overall because the levels are really brutal. That's why most people do them as last. With all this said, this Archstone brought a lot of interesting aspects and features to the game, and I think Demon Souls wouldn't be the same without it, even with some of the shortcomings this Archstone unfortunately has. Thank you so much for watching this video. The fifth Archstone maybe isn't my favorite in the game, but I still love it a lot. And I hope you maybe agree or see why I really love this Archstone and area. Demon Souls is probably the second best atmospheric game in the series, and I still love this game very much, even though the new From Software games are definitely an improvement. Thanks again for watching this video. I would love to discuss your takes down below. Just please keep it civil. No need to be hostile because of disagreements. If you enjoyed this video, please like and sub and share. Would greatly appreciate it. And I will catch you later, guys. See you. Bye.